Hello, thanks for coming in. Kata, nice seeing you. We're just waiting for people to start to talk. It's not like I don't want to talk to you, Kata. Gracie, I can't believe it. Thanks for coming, Gracie. So tonight's going to be in English. Are we okay with that? To turn the cable for English speaking. Great, we have the guests arrive. Doctora Miren Adriana Pérez, gracias. Gracias por venir. Thanks for coming. So we're just giving chance to people to join in, 7 p.m. We're going to be talking about culture, behavior, so many good things you're going to walk away from tonight. But I just want to warm up the space before we jump into the delicious subject. You're going to love the guest. I'm sure you all will. Because we share the same things, which is we all live abroad. And we understand how that feels like. We understand the experience from that. And can you hear me perfectly, can you? Just checking the sound. If someone just said like that, so I know you can hear me. Okay, great. Okay, so what time is it? I think it's time to warm up this room. Thanks all for coming. As people join in, well, they will get the idea. But before I go ahead and welcome our guest tonight, let me tell you what tonight is all about. It's all about culture, identity, belief, diversity, inclusion. So you get the idea. And with that we're talking about how we adapt our belief and our experiences and our values to be the better of us. And I like to quote something that I read from our guest book. His name is Csaba Toth. And Csaba says that 79% of our performance, so check this out, 79% of our performance get lost, like poof, disappear, right? When different values and personalities crash under poor leadership. 79%. So this is hot news for us living abroad. Because, when we live abroad, it's like we activate the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? That happens. But what if we could activate and rise up our self-awareness to really tap into the resources to close that gap? So what if it's possible to actually get to know how to think on common sense? To think with that uncommon sense. And that is why I'm inviting tonight Csaba Toth, who is an expert on that field, because he is from Hungary. Becky, hello. He's from Hungary, but also a British lord. Yes, you heard me well. And he spent 15 years researching and studying to crack the code of our thinking and our behavior. So you know me, I'm a coach, and the foundation of my coaching style is precisely that, to crack that code. Because my expertise is in emotional regulation. So I'm totally excited to have someone like him here tonight, because he's going to give us a different perspective, and it's going to shake that comfort zone that sometimes we get when we live abroad. But beyond that, he created a book. He wrote a book that is called Uncommon Sense in Unusual Times. But what I like about the book is that he activates the knowledge through missions. So you get to do what you learn. It's not like you learn the book and then you put it on the shelf, it looks beautiful, and never activate the knowledge. So what I like about his approach is that he impulses you, he inspires you to go ahead and activate it. So with that, then, it's like you stop focusing on changing others. You focus on actually knowing yourself to get better, and therefore to activate your full potential. And that is business. Because as we know and we understand how we operate, then we can understand others, right? like in business, in whatever business you are. I mean, a doctor, a graphic design, a coach, a leader, an artist, a dentist. It doesn't matter where you are. You need to communicate your ideas to someone else, and you need to understand what someone else is telling you. So Csaba approach is really he created this system, right? It's like an assessment tool. A part of the book and that system where you go to the internet and fill out the mission, he created an assessment tool where leaders around the globe and also government entities can learn to activate that trust and engagement in their teams. And what that means really is to make someone else feel understood and engage with you. And that to me is business. So with that winner award tool that he created, and the book and the mission, is someone that I'm delighted to have tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my guest tonight. And let's start the crack. Csaba Toth, the man behind Uncommon Sense and Unusual Times. So I'm just welcome him to this conversation. So get ready, because this is going to be very exciting. Csaba, welcome to this creative space.
Thank you so much. I think it's going to be difficult to live up to the expectations now after this intro.
No, did I introduce you well, Csaba? Now tell me. It was a good introduction. It is, isn't it? Did I pass the test?
I think so, for now.
I like that for now. Do you want to add anything else, Csaba, before we start?
I mean, there's so much to this topic that I'm pretty sure that we are going to talk about it later on. So,
yes. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so the first thing I have in mind is, because I like my audience and to go along with us, right? So let's start from the very beginning, because we're talking culture, identity, values. Mm-hmm. They're deep concepts. And because the majority of us are living abroad, I would like to start, how would you define culture? Cultura in español, in your language, will be cultura with K, isn't it?
Not sure about that, but I think there are more than 5,000 different definitions of culture, and it's a word that we often use, but we never stop for a second to think about the actual definition, and we just assume the other person has the same vision and the same definition, which is probably not true at all. My definition is that it's a group habit driven by values and needs. That's what it is. It's a group mindset. Culture is not who we are, it's what we are used to, and there's a big difference there. And if you look at the statistics, at least 70% of the people in a country are significantly different to what is normal around them. And at least 20% of people are the exact opposite, but they have to conform to the norms. And that is draining, and that's frustrating and difficult. But if they never leave that environment, they don't know about this topic, then most of them just assume that I was born here, I'm supposed to be like that. Mm-hmm. And they never find out what is natural to them and what is normal to them. They don't know the distinction, and that's where potential is lost.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying, that indeed is like a bunch of habits that get installed into our system, and then we don't question them anymore, right? Yeah. We think that's the way it is. So, yeah, okay, good. So to put it in a line, it's like habits that get activated, and then we don't question anymore. We assume they're true, and they stay with us.
Pretty much, because we are running on autopilot. It's comfortable. Mm-hmm. That's why we don't do it. It's a set of unwritten rules we need to follow in order to be accepted and approved. And it saves us energy. So often we just get used to things and just we settle down and let's go with the flow. That's all.
Yes. Yes. And it's funny, isn't it? We say, let's go with the flow. And then what does it mean, go with the flow? It means you don't question yourself anymore?
Most of the time, it means that we stay in the comfort zone because our brain was designed to keep us safe and efficient. So it was designed to keep us in the comfort zone. So when you hear these motivational quotes that get out of your comfort zone, it's like screaming that go against nature. Well, it's not normal. But once we understand the benefit of doing it and the cost of not doing it, then we do it. Not until then. People don't do anything until it hurts enough, until they understand what's in it for them. And often we have this urban legend that, oh, we are just in a plateau. Then there's no plateau. That doesn't exist. If you think about the compound effect, you're going down or up. You're getting closer to your goal or further away. There's no neutral. There's no plateau. That's not true at all. Tiny differences, tiny actions that are easy to do or not to do. But in the long run, they add up, and then they make a huge difference.
Oh, I really like that. I really like that you mentioned that it's not plateau, because it's totally a myth. We're a living organism. Even during the day, you can notice how your energy flows 24 hours, right? So definitely like that. My partner is trained. I get from that culture right now. That's a good point to start. And to continue with that, I read in your book that you defined value as a way of doing things, like, okay, that's the way I know that is right to get what I need. And you made me think about it, because to me, value is a feeling. And I define it as like the feeling that drives you towards what you think you want or you need. And I say what you think because values change. What I wanted 10 years ago is not the same as what I want or what I need now. So I wonder, from your perspective, because you have plenty of experience with leaders and around the globe, is it a way, meaning action, or it could be both, a feeling, meaning that comes from the inside, driving you towards something?
I think we talk about slightly different things, but at the end of the day, they are similar. Because I think the goal is to make this topic as uncomplicated and practical as possible. Otherwise, people are not going to use it. If it's too abstract, then people think, fluffy topic, I don't need it. Or I don't know how to use it, so let's ignore it. So when we talk about values, these are the things that we consider to be right. And the beliefs, what we consider to be true. Not what is right and true, but what we consider true and right. These are values and beliefs. And what you describe, the feeling, I think this is what we feel when we align, when our behavior reflects our values and meets our needs. That's why we have this feeling that we are on the right path. But, your behavior is the reflection of your values, and it supports your needs. That's what we do. Unless we are in an environment where we have to conform to different norms. But in that case, the gap between who we are, what is natural to us, and who we have to pretend to be, or who we have to pretty much pretend to be. The mindset gap is big.
Yeah, I love that you're taking the time to demystify, because you see, as a coach, that's one of the questions that I have to ask, let's talk about your values. And in general, it's like, what are those? It's fair enough. We don't think about them. So we have to find them, and that's why I'm talking about feeling, right? We start like, okay, let's track what you feel, and let's see what you're showing up in life. How are you demonstrating those things that you value, those things that are right in your life? But I really like your approach more, which is we make it simpler. Right, what is right? So if people walk away with that,
what we consider right, there's a big difference there. What we consider right, and that's the reason why we talk about cultural differences as clashes of common senses, because then we realize that we don't know what is true, we don't know what is right, but we know what we consider right. So when we have a disagreement, we have a different perspective, then I'm pretty sure that you believe that you are right. Because your action is driven by what you consider right and true, your values and beliefs, hoping to get the best possible outcome you think you can get. So if this is how we look at the topic, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so let's make an example. What do you think, Csaba? Just to make it less abstract and more practical. So let's put a value out there. So to make an example, for instance, what would be your value that that is activated, and okay, this is what I value, this is what I think is right, and this is what I do?
Okay. So if you look at, for example, Dr. John DeMartini's research, then he had a really interesting take on values, that they come from the void, the perceived void that you felt as a child. So for example, I always felt that I was really controlled. and suppressed. So my biggest value now, so the void that I want to fill up is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the most important thing. So as soon as I feel that somebody is patronizing, or they want to control me, or they want to be more than me for no reason, that triggers me badly. That cannot happen. I never want to be more than anyone else, but I don't want to be less either.
Love
So
the example.
that's number one.
Thank you for that, because I think that helped to clarify how is it. And I love what you mentioned, Dr. DeMartini. He's one of the greatest researchers out there. He knows what he's talking about, and he always talks about values. Brilliant. Okay. Now we have values. I hope that people are getting the hang around this, because we're going to go deeper and deeper. And now that we're talking about values, Csaba, how that book and how that mission that you have with your book and what you do globally with leaders is adding to that freedom that is your value.
So the purpose of the book, the purpose of the book is not to tell people what to think. There's no guru stuff here that here's the wisdom, take it. You're lucky to talk to me. That doesn't work. That if somebody wants to be like that, definitely we're not going to work together. So this book is different. It's about helping you question the status quo for the right reasons, just to question some of those outdated and incomplete ideas that you might take for granted and you think is true, but I'm not telling you that it's not true. I'm going to present it from a different perspective. I'm going to ask you a question and you work it out. That's how we can influence people. So the book is about facilitating this journey, because information on its own is not going to lead to transformation. That's not enough. Like you said, you read a book, you put it on the shelf, and then you're proud of it. And it's a really pretty book. That's true. It looks, as you can see, it looks amazing. But that's not enough. You have to experience it. That's how people learn, from experience. So every single chapter is seamlessly integrated with a mission. So you read a chapter, and then you can experience it. It's going to push you out of your comfort zone. It's going to take you deeper. Because the book is about bridging the gap between your intention and your impact on other people. So if you want to be successful, there are 4 different steps. The first one starts with you, the mindset. And this is what most people don't want to care about, because it feels uncomfortable. Personal development is like a slap in the face, but it's fulfilling. And that's the foundation. 95% of our actions are driven by values and beliefs we are not even aware of, but we think that we are so objective and we are passionate about learning about other people and teach them how to have common sense. No, that doesn't work like that. So that is step 1. Step 2 is to learn about uncommon sense, which is other people's logic. Because if you look at culture differences as clashes of common senses, you can remove the illusion of separation and superiority. It's not that I'm right and you're wrong and I have to prove it. When I win, you lose. No. If I can ask the right questions, I can see your perspective and you can see mine. Diversity can lead to innovation. Otherwise, it turns into painful liability. So that's why step 2, uncommon sense. Because if we can do that, then we can get along and then we can get ahead. There's no shortcut, especially on the top. There are a lot of smart people. What makes a difference, in your field, that's emotional intelligence. How you make people feel, not how important you want to look, but how you make others feel. Do they feel understood and valued? If they don't, they go somewhere else where they will. That's how it works.
Love that. Thank you for that. That's amazing. I just have a question here that I thought was interesting for you. They're asking about humbleness. They said, when you come to a new country, sometimes being humble is taken as inferiority. What's your take on that, Csaba?
It's true. It depends on the context, because in every single cultural group, there is a normal behavioral style that is driven by certain values and needs. So, for example, if you tell me that you're from the US, then I can imagine, for example, a typical American. So if that's the normal American, but I can see that you behave differently, then what is the logical conclusion? You're not normal. So probably you're worse than normal. That's the conclusion, and that's wrong. That's a problem with that. So we have to understand wherever we go, what is considered normal. That's important, because your personality determines how you want to behave, and your environment determines how you should, or technically how you have to behave. So that's stronger. That's why we can never ever separate them. So being humble, yes, it can be a sign of weakness or a sign of confidence, depending on the context. But just because you are in a cultural group, it doesn't mean that everybody is like that. So it's a good starting point. But as you interact with people, you get to know them, you see behind the mask, you might realize that they're the exact opposite. And that's when you connect with people. So it depends on that.
So I like that. So it's really to connect from the compassion ways, thinking I'm going to take off my assumptions and I'm going to think that you're going to be what I expect you to be. So I allow that space of curiosity.
I can tell you an example. I can tell you a really practical example. So, when I grew up in Hungary, then my mom used to tell me, don't praise yourself, don't stand out from the crowd, just wait until somebody else does it. Yeah, try to do that in the UK. That's not how it works. And when I realized that if you work harder, but you don't promote yourself, then they just put more on you. Just more, just more, just more. So, okay. And then you can see other people who know much less, they don't work hard, but they promote themselves and they progress. So that doesn't make sense. But I never liked it. So can I do that? No, I cannot. So how can I compromise? And I had to find a way. So when that happened, then I decided that I was working in a hotel, running a department. So I love fixing everything. There's a complaint, and to me that was a challenge. I just, let's diffuse it. They argue, they complain, and then at the end they give me a hug. And I just loved it because you can diffuse it. But I didn't say anything, so nobody knew about it. So what was the assumption from other departments? Nothing happens there. It's so easy. I said, no, we have to change it. So what is the compromise? After that, every time something like this happened, I sent an email to everyone, all the heads of departments. I explained what happened, what I did, what the outcome was. And the way I justified it, I wasn't promoting myself, but I was sharing insights. To me, that was a compromise, and that's when everything changed. So you can stick to your values, what you consider to be right, or you understand that, your intention is good, impact, not so much. Do you want to bridge it? So there's always a way.
I love that. But, I'm very curious, Csaba, because I love what you just did, right? It sounds amazing because you already did it. But I want to take you back of that moment when you decided you have to do something different in order for others to notice the impact, the positive impact that you were bringing to that company. So what triggered that? How was that Eureka time for you? If it was in Eureka, or how was it? Do you remember?
I tried to be politically correct, but I was just pissed off because, you reached the point where you have enough. I'm working hard and it's not recognized. So I'm thinking, everybody's stupid around me, or maybe I can change something. Technically, that's how it happened.
Thank you for your honesty, because it really helps. Because sometimes we think, when I'm pissed off, I cannot be creative. Well, being angry could be a positive thing, because it could be an awakening. It could be a kick in where you need it to understand you need to change, right?
Yeah, if you take responsibility for your own growth and actions, yes, instead of criticizing and blaming others, which is the easier option. And this is what most people do. So they try to control the external environment, and obviously that's not going to happen, so they get even more stressed. They're going down in a rabbit hole, instead of realizing that they can only control their own mindset. Because we get stressed and pissed off when our expectations don't match the reality. So we're not going to control that. We can control expectations, what we pay attention to, what meaning we attach to it, and what action we are going to take based on that. Are you going to do what you normally do, or maybe you do it from a different angle and you realize that there's no point in trying it harder. When you don't speak English, then, or they don't understand you, what do? You speak louder, because that is going to help. Well, not really. But this is what we do, because we are all logged into different behavioral patterns, and if something doesn't work, we just try it harder. Instead of trying it from a different angle. And that is not normal. That's why we talk about cognitive and behavioral flexibility during our workshops. And to me, that's the real global mindset, or the uncommon mindset, however you want to call it, that you are able to see the same situation from different perspectives, so you can make a better decision. And then you can choose to respond instead of just reacting. That's our topic, cognitive and behavioral flexibility. But again, that is not normal. because you see the world from your own perspective. It kept you alive. It got you the results. It's really difficult to believe that a completely different perspective can be equally logical unless we learn about it.
Indeed. Unless you learn that it can work, unless that you give it a chance and then see if it works. I really love in your words. Thank you so much for that. And what I really like is your approach of bringing the cultural and the personality together as the two dimensions that make us who we are. Because, as you said, the identity has so many layers, and the more we deep dive into it and get used to the uncomfortable feeling of, oh my God, I haven't defined this about me, and taking the responsibility and saying, this is up to me, not someone else, but to me, to really get the definition and get it into action. That is a powerful then person in front of you. And okay, so with that in mind, I love also in the book that you said that companies should care way more for the employees' fulfillment. That for you, that was a moral obligation. And I love that statement. Because I imagine for a second a world where all the companies were just doing that. What a different outcome would it be? What a different human race we will be together.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know, how did you come out with that moral obligation realization that was up to the company as well, not only the employee, two to tango kind of way?
Because I think we got to the point where companies understand that happy people make more money. I mean, that's the basic principle. I mean, we can decorate that sentence nicely, but that's the basic principle.
No, I love the way how you say it. Yeah, stay with us, Csaba.
So they introduced employee engagement programs. And that means that they give people a spa treatment, a free lunch, bean bags in the office, so just to make them happy. But, it's like paying people extra to pretend that they enjoy the activity. Mm-hmm. That reminds me of a lot of different professions. And not all of them are politically correct. So, it's an interesting concept. But the point is
children. You get the star. Here, that's your little star, a sweetie, or something like that. I don't know. It's interesting.
It's an innocent way of looking at it. That's not what I was thinking about. But the point is that, when you, for example, come back from the spa and then you are full, but you still cannot stand your colleagues, the clients irritate you and you hate your boss, you're going to be even more pissed off because you have more energy. So that's about treating the symptoms of the problem, not the root cause. Yeah. So if you look at the research, that 60 to 80% of all problems in a company stem from strained relationships between employees. 60 to 80%. Not because they're not good enough, it's because they clash. And the top three reasons: clash of values, clash of personalities, and poor leadership. 60 to 80%. That's a lot. That is the root cause, because all three of them stem from the same source, the lack of understanding of why people think and behave differently. So we address that first. So if you think about making people happy or fulfilled, what is the main difference? If I introduce an employee engagement program, I give the same thing to everyone. I give you chocolate, I give you ice cream, you happy? Not really, but temporarily you are. But if I want to make you fulfilled, I want to motivate you, then I have to understand what drives you, can create that motivating environment around you. But for that, I need to know you. I need to understand you. And a lot of managers don't have the time or the skills to do that. So if you look at the Gallup research, the bottom 5%, so technically, the most disengaged layer of a company is middle management. Imagine that. They're the ones who should implement these programs. They are pissed off already. They are in survival mode. And this is not criticism, not at all. But the problem is that...
That's how it is.
But it's not their fault, because often the best employees are promoted to be a manager, which is a completely different job. They never got the training. They don't have the skills. But it's not even their fault. So what do they have? A bad example. So ultimately, they become the kind of manager that they never wanted to have. Because maybe that is the behavior that is rewarding. Maybe that's the only example that they know. So they need help the most, because middle management is pretty much like a filter in a company. They filter the information and the hassle and everything up and down. And what happens when the filter is clogged? System breaks down. And we can see that. If your managers are not happy, then they're going to piss off your employees, and your clients are going to feel it as well. There's no shortcut there.
Yeah, and talking about emotions and feelings, have you ever walked into a room and you feel the chemistry already unwelcome, that is like, don't walk even further? In an office, when you're going to ask someone and it's like, it's telling you with all the body and the chemistry, sending you a signal of don't even ask. And that's what you're talking about, is that unseen energy and information that stays and sticks out and flies away to, different change and engage into destructive environment. Yeah.
I used to be part of it, and I made it very visible, because when I was pissed off, it was visible. And it's not fair. It's not fair on the clients. And, after that, I just felt horrible, because, maybe that was the only Sunday afternoon when they could go to a hotel or they could go for a lunch. And who am I to ruin that? And I didn't understand it until it happened to me. We went to a restaurant, and then everybody was pissed off, and we felt so uncomfortable. And that was the only day off in a month. And I thought, wow, they just ruined it because they are pissed off. And then I thought, well, wait, I do exactly the same thing. And this is what I mean by that people learn from experience. If I do it to you, that's normal. If you do it to me, ooh, how dare you? And that's normal.
I just love that you're so blunt, because it is true. I have been pissed off, and I think no one will notice, but they do. They certainly do. And it doesn't allow the engagement and destroy. It destroys. It's like you're a little island of, anger around there. And by the way, you're not making any solution. But you have to live through it. It's human. We need to kind of get there to pass that and level up and say, okay, now I know better. I can do better. Those two together again. Thanks for sharing that, Csaba. I really enjoyed this conversation. You're so honest. And I wanted to ask you something else about your own experience of going through those changes. And I was wondering, when you were writing the book, and you probably were growing further and further while even writing the book, right? How many times did you say, shit, I need to start this chapter all over again, or this section?
It's a horrible feeling, because it's a never-ending story. And, I always have something to add to it. But then the editor said, no, we have to pull the trigger at one point. So now I just have, another chapter, writing down all the ideas, and then probably a second book is going to come up one day.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Yeah. So how do you let go? How do you compromise and say, okay, this is as good as it gets right now, and I have to be happy to let go and say bye?
Because at the end of the day, it's not about me. And I know that I have a message. I know that I went through a lot of difficult things, and I found a solution. And a lot of people need that. And this is our profession as a coach or trainer. That, we went through hell. And then when you meet a client, then they think, oh, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly my problem. And they know that you managed to overcome this challenge. And they know that you can make that process as quick and uncomplicated and painless as possible. That's our job. I can't imagine a better profession, that we can save people years of frustration, a lot of money and hassle. And that's amazing. The smart people learn from other people's mistakes. But you cannot wake up somebody who's not asleep. There are lots of people are like that, but that's not our client. There's no problem with that. But you cannot take your clients deeper than you've ever been to. And that makes us credible. And I think once we have that, and also the skills and the frameworks and the models, that's a really powerful combination. So I had to realize that there's a message there, and I know that it adds value to people, and I wanted to add more. So when you buy the book, you get the assessment, the interactive learning platform, even a certificate at the end, and then also you can join our Facebook group. So, it's a journey. It's not a one-off. I want to facilitate it. So the idea was that I have to do it now, because if I don't do it, it's selfish. I can talk about inspiring people and things like that, but if nobody knows about it, then you inspire no one. And you're not helping anyone. That's selfish at the end of the day. It's like imagine that somebody is dying in the desert because there's no water, but then you just keep polishing your glass before you give the water to them. I mean, it doesn't make sense. They don't care about that. They just give me the water. And once you visualize that, it's easier.
I just love the analogy. I love your way of explaining things, and I definitely appreciate your humbleness. Funny enough, about that word that we're talking about, it's all over you, and it's beautiful to witness. It make it more pleasant to talk, and you open up. Even though we're in different countries, you can feel the energy and I'm sure that the audience as well is feeling like, oh, this guy is like me. He's not like above. He's just relating to what it can happen to me. He gets angry as well and pissed off. Great. We're humans. Yes. It doesn't matter the title. And I know that you don't like titles either. So you don't like titles, but what happened to that British lord? Tell me more about
That's
that.
a different story. That's a very different story. That's a
I want to
wonderful
hear about it.
title.
Sorry. Tell me about that. How did you get that British lord title?
Well, technically, okay, the way it started that, when I was a kid and I watched The Highlander, you remember that movie with Sean Connery killing the immortals, only one can stay alive or something like that? So the Highlander, the Scottish hero, and I just loved it. And, when I came to the UK, then obviously I feel Scottish inside, even though I'm in Brighton. So that was always my favorite thing. So one Christmas, I got a paper that there's a kind of a loophole here in the UK that if you buy land, even if it's just 1 square foot, it comes with a title, and this is what I got for Christmas from Kasia. So it comes with a title. I can change my passport. I can change anything. It's real. It's official.
Is it real?
It's not. Yeah, of course. It's not sir. It's Lord, because I've got a huge property. Like the size of my laptop, but still, it works and it's real.
Well, Kasia made a really good investment. Is a smart woman. Kasia is his fiance. Is fiance, right?
Yes.
Just for the audience to know, so who didn't know, now they know. That's a very clever fiance.
Amazing.
Telling you, it's an amazing one. That was very clever. Okay, that's an interesting story right there. And from Hungary to England, why England? What made it there and no another place?
It was easier. So, when I was a student, I didn't know what to do. So I studied languages. So I got a master's in Italian linguistics, but I don't speak Italian anymore. And I also studied English. So we had a flatmate who used to live here. And we just came here for a summer. And it turned out that, oh, wait, there's better life here. So we stayed. That was 16 years ago.
Wow. Okay, so it was out of practicality and ended up to be your home. Yeah. And come here, because I love that part of you that you study the proverbs in Italian and you have that flavor in your life. And which one will stick into your heart? One of the proverbs that you say, I love that one, that I will take away.
To be honest, I can't really remember those proverbs. To me, it was more about the topic, because this is where I found my topic. I just didn't know about it. Okay. Because if you think about the proverbs as the condensed knowledge and the wisdom of the previous generations, almost like a tweet from your great-grandparents, just like a good message that, hey, be careful. There's a little advice.
Exactly. They were true. They were kind of, this is a way that they can tell you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is something in it. And then I just thought, wow, this is amazing. Because, for example, if you work really hard in Hungarian, then you work like a horse. In Italian, you work like an ox. In English, you work like a slave. So, it's the same thing, but the way you express it, it reflects the history, the background, and so many other things. I just didn't know that this topic existed that time. I just enjoyed it. Yeah,
fascinating. And talking about, proverbs and things like that, in Venezuela, where I come from, we do funny things with our gestures. And sometimes that means so many things, right? So I'm going to give you one and see what you think. Well, my people are going to laugh. One is like if I tell you, hey, tomorrow I'm going to London, and then I go like this. What do you think it means?
You joking?
Yes. You're a good guy. You know how to read. Yes, you're joking. Or we have a lot of Italian saying that we do like that, or we do that as well. You probably know all those. And
That's
I'm
the only
curious.
thing I can remember from Italian. Not the
Ah,
words. I don't speak Italian anymore, just my hands sometimes. And in Brighton, that's especially useful.
you don't do it anymore?
No,
Huh.
no.
And in Hungary, do you have anything that you do that is very Hungarian, like something that you communicate with your hands or body?
With the body, definitely. And I had a lot of problems because of that. That, for example, in Hungary, if you pay attention to someone and you really focus, you look into their eyes.
Yeah.
But in the UK, it was perceived as being aggressive.
Right.
So imagine
Yeah.
that if you do that, probably you get away with it. But if I do it, short hair, big body, sometimes leather jacket, and I'm looking at people like this. That's not pleasant.
It didn't go
I
well.
think, no, I intimidated lots of people, but that was just a sign that I paid attention. I really wanted to understand that.
That's funny. That's funny. Csaba, so the next training that you're going to do is on November.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot wait to join that one. And I put the link above on the profile so people can link in and have a look. Is it another thing that they can do to find out, say that they want the training, they want to know more about you? Would they direct message you or go to the website? What would be the best way?
I'm more than happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn, for example. Just send me an invite. I think that's the best way of doing it because then you can see all the updates. But that course is definitely recommended. I came up with that when this pandemic started. And I thought, instead of disappearing, let's double down and let's create more value. And it's a really different take on the growth mindset concept.
Yeah.
So it's going to be practical and probably challenging and equally psychologically safe. So we have to create that environment where we can go.
Yeah. How long does it last, by the way, the training?
Well, it's 4 times 90 minutes. It's from Monday to Thursday, and there's always something at the end. So, for example, we have usually half an hour or sometimes 1 hour Q&A at the end when we share stories and we ask questions, and it's really interesting. There's also some kind of homework, like an assessment or something we discuss the next day. So it is a journey. That's why just one of like 6 hours wouldn't be enough. But 4 times, 1.5, that's a journey. That's a good start.
I like that. I like that. So, like, if people are working, can they do that? Can they join the course and keep working? Or would you advise to take that week off to focus on that? What would be your approach?
They don't have to take a week off because we start at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, UK time.
Oh, good. Okay.
But it's going to be interactive. So it's not like blah, blah, blah. And then, it's like if something recorded and pretending to be live. No, it's real. It's us. We create it. So it's up to 50 people maximum because we can make it personal, not more than that.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that approach. And at the end, like, it's like a cert that they get, like to apply at work or to add to their leadership skills. What is it that they get at the end, like from the course?
The concept
I know
is
you don't like titles, but it's just to give them the idea of what, okay, I walk away with.
Okay, so if you look at the growth mindset concept, then it's about thinking positive, learning from your mistakes and all those things, which are really important because you have to believe that you can make tomorrow better than today. If you don't, then you're not going to put the work into it. So that's definitely important. But most of the opportunities, time and energy are lost for 2 reasons. One is friction with people who think and behave differently. And the other one is friction with ourselves, self-sabotage. So we're going to get into the details. So for example, if you look at the German language, the highest level of praise is when nobody's criticizing you. So what if the highest level of growth is when you stop wasting your potential, you stop ruining relationships, you stop draining yourself for no reason? I mean, how can you control your mindset if you don't? How can you fix it if you don't know how it works? 95% of our actions are driven by those values and beliefs we are not even aware of. So we can discuss the symptoms, but not the root cause of the problem. But when we learn how to manage that, how to manage the voices in our head, how to turn those differences into synergy, how to connect with other people, how to improve self-esteem where we don't depend on external approval, because then we don't have to bully anyone to feel important. We don't have to hide to feel safe. We can be ourselves. That is stable. That's sustainable. So that course is about that. We go into the details. It's going to be really, really practical. But it's about us.
Yes. Yes. And what a better time to invest in self-development that right now, really to focus in learning more about ourselves and to know what is it that makes us better, to activate that potential that you're talking about. I mean, to know how to tap into that and what does it mean for us. Because it sounds very good in theory as I'm explaining, but what can I change during the day? One little thing that can change and improve my performance for me.
I mean, the usual advice would be that get out of your comfort zone. And yes, that's great. But if you think about that, then, evolution happens under pressure.
Yes,
that's just a fact.
Talk about that. I love that. Go.
We have to get out of the comfort zone. If you do a training and people are not uncomfortable, then you're not teaching and you're not learning. So it doesn't mean that you have to abuse people, but learning is emotional. That's the point. So people learn from pain. I mean, think about the brain. It's pretty much a moist computer programmed by pain and pleasure, nothing else. Whatever we associate with those feelings. So when we get out of the comfort zone, we feel pain. And pretty much those are the limiting beliefs when we are pushing them. But pain on its own is not enough. Pain and reflection, according to Ray Dalio, is progress. But how can you reflect on something you don't know about? So yes, you can get out of the comfort zone. Yes, you can expand it. But it's much more efficient once you know what to reflect on. Once you understand your own blueprint, what, how, and why you do the way you do. Then you can go much deeper. Because how much can you reflect on how to say good night in Russian if you don't speak Russian? It doesn't matter.
I don't even want to attempt to think about that because it doesn't even make sense.
No, but we do that. Exactly, but we do that so we can discuss the symptoms, but not the solution. We're not going to find it. And it's not because we are stupid at all. It's because we don't learn about this in school. This shouldn't be the privilege of corporate learning.
Yeah.
And to me, the big picture is that they are going to teach this at least in high schools.
Yes, I agree.
The goal.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm very happy that you're tapping into government around the globe as well. It's not only companies, because we do need this kind of education about us. What is it that activates us? What is it that doesn't activate us? What is it that makes me emotional and what doesn't make me emotional? Rewards, pain, all this stuff. What makes me grow and what makes me go and stay, I'm not going to bother. We need to know all this stuff. Absolutely. So very thrilled to look. I'm really looking forward to that course in November. And I really hope that some of you can join with me so we can have the crack. And the crack in Ireland is totally different than the crack in America. If it's any USA citizen here, it's not what you're thinking. The crack is like fun, is a word that Irish people use to have fun or the thing is an expression. And it's spelled like the crack, the bad one, but it's not the white powder. Did you know about that?
No.
Did you know about that?
You see, we learn every day.
Like in shock. You look like you're in shock a little bit, Csaba. Tell me, you're in shock with the crack.
No. I'm just listening. I'm just learning. That's it.
But the first time I arrived here and someone say, "What's a crack?" I said, "I don't have crack. I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "No. I mean, like, what's going on with you?"
Stereotype, no? Just a stereotype because you're from Venezuela. I said, how dare they? No?
I was like, how dare you to insult me? Poof. I didn't know what to think. And then they had to explain it. No. We mean it like, what are you about? What is happening in your life? I said, oh, get it. Very interesting.
That's a sensitive topic, no? It's a really sensitive word because when I came here and then people asked me, hi, how are you? Then I wanted to tell them. I thought they cared and they just walked off and I thought, whoa, how rude are you?
They don't mean it.
I know,
Yeah,
but the problem was my expectation because I thought that they're interested. So it's not that they were so rude. My expectations were wrong. So I had to adjust them. But
well, Csaba, it's the same here. It's the same here. I had this conversation with an Italian guy who was serving me coffee. And we started to chat, and he said, I don't understand people here, Italian way. Like, the customers say, how are you? So I went and told her. My day was shit. I get up and blah, blah, blah. And the customer were like, okay, bye. And he said, why do they ask if they don't want to know? I said, look, it's a polite way to say hi.
yeah.
That's all. It's no more than that. They don't want anything else.
And that's the key, that we're not going to change everyone around us. We have to understand what is normal. We have to adjust to it. And then when you get to know people, then you can take it into a different direction. You can make it more personal.
Exactly. And then you can laugh. You can say, yeah, I get it. It's not personal. As you say, I don't take it personal. It's just that's the way that they communicate. So it's me who have to adapt and be flexible and say, okay, so now I can talk the same code and cracking that code that you talk about, the thinking and behavior, which is fantastic. Wow, so we're coming to the end. Csaba, you want to say anything else? I really want everyone to get a book and get into that program. I really is the best investment. It doesn't matter if you're a coach or not. I really think it's something that is important for you in life. Think about your family, think about your career, think about your friends, think about the missions and goals that you have. It just makes it easier for you to understand yourself and to set up the goals. You don't need a coach all the time. It's good to have one, time to time, but the idea is that you don't have a coach. The idea is that you learn the tools by yourself and you activate all that. That's my perspective. And I am a coach, but I like people not to have a coach. That's the idea.
Yeah, but the problem is that when you go back to normal and then you hang out with people like you used to, then you go back to your habits. And to me, that's why it was important to facilitate this journey and to create at least a Facebook group where you can hang out with people who are on the same path. And at least you can share concerns, you can share success stories, you can discuss things. And this is how we learn, that you are in that kind of environment. Those people get you. And that's important.
Yes. Thanks for mentioning that, because without the support of your new learning and your new growing, it's natural that you want to retrieve and come back and retract to where you come from. But if you start to anchor new ways of you, that new person is more likely to stay, because the similarities will pull you away from that comfort zone and say, no, come back to where you were. It's like the diet. I started on Monday. And then the Monday comes, it's like, oh, no, next Monday. It's just, and until you got that group, that commitment into togetherness. So it's the same with everything. With you have that. You have your Facebook group. You have your missions. So is that togetherness, engagement that will help you to inspire yourself and to go. Because one thing is to have the motivation. Another thing is to get up with the inspiration of, yes, I can do it. I want to do it. It's no better way to be and to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I think I covered all up. Did I cover all?
Not all, no, definitely not all. But I think it's a good start. So we have to carry on. And even if you attend the course, it doesn't matter how good it is. It's not going to change anything unless we carry on and we practice.
Yes.
So this is a never-ending story. Even now, when I think I know a lot, I have to realize I don't.
But that's the beauty, right? I mean, you never finish. It's like, you see, I'm a graphic designer too, Csaba. And I remember when I was studying Illustrator, I used to ask my teacher, but when do you know when it's finished? And he just looked at me like, little grasshopper, you never finish.
Oh, that's cute.
She said, you never finish. You're never going to finish. Tomorrow you're going to see that piece and you want to add more.
Yeah.
So you have to get used to that idea that it's never going to be finished. And
if that's really good.
With me. Yeah. And that's life. If you think about that book that we discussed, that it's a point that's enough. That's enough for others to pick up, and my intention is to help. That's enough. Yeah. And then it's another one, and it's another one. So you have to as well learn to let go, right? To let go of that ego of, no, I want more. I want, that idea that we have, perfection.
Yeah.
Oh, Csaba,
Never-ending
what a
journey.
pleasure. It's a journey, exactly. And enjoy the journey and write it with your own pen because it's yours, right? It's the book is yours. And life is one, and you are the author of that life. But for that, we need some training. And I think it's such a good idea to have students, again, alongside who are discovering who they are along your journey and sharing the same experiences and say, oh my God, I'm not the only one thinking this way.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one encounter these obstacles or, new ideas that I don't know how to handle because it's normal. Anything that is stretching us feels uncomfortable and feels uneasy and yucky.
And to be honest, that's exactly the approach that I use when I coach coaches as well, because often they think, what is my niche? What is my purpose exactly? And then they want to get it right so much that it's just confusing and they make it so professional that nobody can understand. They said, listen, your niche is the biggest challenge that you managed to overcome, the biggest pain you had. That's your niche. Start with that. That makes you credible. Nobody can be better at your story than you are. So that means that you're a world leader in that. And then when you can talk about that challenge, then people can feel it's real and you're going to connect with the right people. And once you create that niche, then you can expand it, but you cannot create too many. Don't go wide, go deep, be the best at what you do instead of trying to be mediocre at everything else. And that's the most important part. Because chances are that if you have the problem, that lots of people have the same problem and you're ahead of them. So you can help them a lot. How selfish it is not to help people. And that's an amazing feeling.
It is. It is. And I think you're right. Is the big scary monster that we have is to talk about the pain that makes us naked somehow. Because when you talk about what happened to you and why you're doing what you do, you need to reveal who you really are. Is no more hiding. This is the pain that I went through, and this is what I'm doing now. But you need to flourish to get there and to look back and being able not to be dragged by that. It's like the force, that dark force. You need to overcome it. And I think that's what you're talking about. That when you define your audience, the people who you want to talk to, is that falling in love because you already forgive yourself and you already deal with the pain and you can talk about that.
But you have to
And
know
that's what
how to
Penny
do it
Brown
as
talks
well.
about. What was
But
that?
what if you don't have a good example? You don't know how to deal with it. What if you grew up in a family where your parents had the same problem and they just felt sorry for themselves? And this is the example that you saw. And you
Yeah,
don't know that there's a better way of dealing with it. So, we
correct.
cannot help it. We cannot choose people around us often. And,
Yeah.
they can hurt us, but it is our responsibility to heal ourselves. Because, those stories are important if we learn from them, if there's a lesson in it. Just because we have a story, it's exciting, but it turns into a lesson, then we can use it in the future. Because only the
Yeah.
past has meaning, the future has purpose. But the way you define your past determines the purpose you create in the future. There's no meaning in the future, only purpose. That's the main difference. So how you define that meaning, how you can reframe it, if you know how to do it, it can change the future, and that's where the purpose lives. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it cannot change. Of course it can. You can refine it.
Yeah.
But if you know how to do it, you take back control and it's less stressful. And you stop draining
Indeed.
yourself.
I love what you're saying. I just love the way that you communicate so clearly about something that could be very abstract. You make it very simple and clarified. Yes, it's simply looking forward and clarify what it is that you want and can be up to you to see that
Yeah.
future and that purpose. Because that's what we're looking for. At the end of the day, if you ask anybody, they want to find that purpose. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Because once that you find this, you flourish. That's it. It's not working anymore. You just get up with a passion and you do it. You're lighting up by it. It's easy to
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Anything else? Did I miss anything, Csaba? Tell me.
I mean, we could talk all night if you have time.
So I think we're